Greetings, everyone. My name is Ayman Al-Tarabishi. I'm the Executive Director for the International Council for Small Business and Deputy Chair of the Department of Management at GW School of Business. I want to welcome you and thank you all for joining us here for the ICSB Exchange. I am really delighted and excited to have a new webinar today. And the topic is fascinating, and also the speaker comes in with a vast experience, a global experience here. So let me start by introducing the session title, and then I'll introduce our speaker today. The session title is Resilience as an Intertwined Logic Between the Individual and the Organization, the Case of ESSCA School of Management in Times of Lockdown. And this is going to be a fascinating topic here. I would like to also introduce our speaker. I'm delighted to introduce our speaker here for the session. She knows ICSB for a long period of time, and she's been a partner of ours in many different activities here. So let me introduce Ines. Greetings, Ines. How are you doing? How's it going? How's your family?
Very good. Everybody is very good. Thank you.
And Ines is a professor at the School of Management, and she is also, I think, the Deputy Dean, correct, Ines?
Associate Dean.
Associate Dean, yes. So we're delighted to have you here. How's Paris? How's France? How is everybody doing there?
Everybody is fine now. Healthy.
Great. Very good. So why don't we go ahead? Why don't you have the slides up? So why don't we go ahead and start?
Okay, thank you very much, Ayman, for this opportunity. I'm really glad for me and for ESSCA to have the possibility to talk a little about this fascinating subject, which is the subject of resilience. And it is completely correct to talk about resilience in this time. So I'm going to share with you a little knowledge about resilience, because I am a researcher in entrepreneurship, and I was studying resilience in the case of entrepreneurs. And in this case, I think it is very interesting to see and to study how organizations can develop resilience to overcome crises. First of all, I want to thank ICSB for this opportunity. I want to thank you, Ayman, to be here. I know that you have a very complex agenda also with the MSc Day, and it is a wonderful moment for us to share this. And I want to thank you all the people that are here listening to this presentation and that will participate with questions I hope I will answer correctly. So just to start this presentation, as I think there is a lot of people that maybe don't know me, I want to start just a little introduction of myself. I am a professor and a researcher on entrepreneurship. I have a doctoral degree for a French university and also an habilitation to conduct research. Previously, I was working for 12 years as a manager in multinational corporations in Brazil and in Argentina, 4 years for the Rompulan Group, which was a very important chemical industry, and 8 years for Sidel, which is part of the Tetra Laval Group, the #1 packaging in the world. And then I transformed my life and I became a professor. And now, since 2017, I work at ESSCA School of Management, and I am a professor of entrepreneurship, but also the associate dean for the campus in Paris, which is one of the most important campus of the group. Okay, once the introduction being done, I want to go directly to the subject. And the subject is what happened 3 months ago. This global crisis, health global crisis, and then not just the health problem, but the decision for governments in several countries to lock down and to close companies and to close universities and to stop the economic activity in a certain way, unless in the way we used to do it. Facing that, there is a need for adaptation. And when we talk about adaptation, there is the concept of resilience that comes with this idea to crisis and adaptation. There is a lot of concepts as flexibility, but behind all of that, I think we can use resilience to understand the way we are going to move on. And to see what is resilience, there is a lot of definitions, we want to come back to this, but basically we can say that a system is resilient if it can continue to carry on the mission in the face of adversity. That means you face a problem, you face adversity, but you continue working. If you are able to continue working, that means that you develop some kind of resilience that allows you to continue moving even if there is a big problem. So, in this webinar, as you understood, we are going to discuss resilience, and we are going to use the example of ESSCA School of Management, because I am working at ESSCA and we succeed doing something. And I think when we succeed doing something, it is interesting to analyze it and to learn from this. So what I'm going to do with you is kind of reflection of what was the problem, what was the situation we faced, the complexity, and then how we overcome that. And as we were successful, I think we can learn from that and to share with other institutions, because it is in the sharing that we can learn and understand. So let's go with a good practice. I will start defining resilience. I will introduce ESSCA and all the characteristics and the problem. And then we're going to look the solutions through the lenses of resilience theory. And finally, the lessons that we learn and the key success factors to consider for the future situations. Okay? Let's go. Okay. I come back to the definition. Resilience in general is the capacity to adapt and to start again after adversity. Okay, this is a general definition. But there is a lot of, we need to come back to history to understand. I always like to look back where the concept came from. Because in management, we use a lot of concepts, but it is interesting to understand the evolution of the concepts. So when you look back in the concept, at the concept of resilience, you go more or less to the end of the 19th century. And it is not in management, it's in physics. It is a French engineer named Georges Charpy, who died in 1945, who started testing the ability of some materials to resist stress, mechanical stress coming from outside, and the ability of the material of resist stress and to continue in their shape. That is, you put the stress in the material, they can transform this material. When you stop the stress, the mechanical stress, the material recover his original shape or transform it, but continue being useful in the original way. So they call that capacity, they call it resilience. Okay, this capacity to absorb external shocks and continue existing. And this concept in the 20th century, it was used, just the name is a kind of metaphor. It was applied to a study developed by Emmy Werner, which was a doctor in psychology, developmental psychology. And Emmy Werner, she spent a lot of years, 40 years, in a longitudinal study. And she was following children in Hawaii, children that came from poor families or that came with, that were born in difficult situations. And the idea was that children that came from difficult situations, they are going to have they're going to be difficult adults, that they are going to have problems when they grow up. And it was not the case. She followed almost 700 children for 40 years. And she discovered that more than the half of the children, even coming from very, very difficult childhood, they become responsible adults without problems. So she called that capacity to overcome adversity, to overcome a difficult childhood and to become a good and successful adult. She called that resilience. So we are going to have this another application of resilience, in this case, to psychology. But if we continue looking at the concept, the last 30 years in management, it appears everywhere. There is a lot of papers of resilience. The first one 30 years ago was considering the problems of technology in the banking systems. Once all the banking and financial systems become technologically managed, if there is a problem in technology, it was a problem in the functioning of the banking industry. So they started studying how to behave in the case of a technological crisis and the technological aspect. This is the first papers in management. But then we say, okay, but maybe it is not just for the banking system, that maybe it's not just for technology crisis. Maybe we can look at this in other aspects, like a market innovation, a problem in the market because a new competitor or a new development that we can follow. So, and this case, resilience starts to be used to understand, study a lot of different things. And papers say that resilience is a dynamic process that allows companies to overcome crisis and to learn from that crisis. And there is a definition that I like very, very much. It is from 2015, from Fouquet 2015, who said that it is a result, this is an adaptive result that allows a company to be innovative, creative, and to continue to learn. So we are putting in the definition of the concept new aspects, the aspect of innovation, the aspect of creativity, and the aspect of learning that were not in the original definition of resilience. So the concept evolves, and today we can find resilience everywhere. In psychology, with the resilient children, in ecology, with the resilient systems, in urbanism, we talk about resilient cities, in psychology, resilient individuals, in management, resilience organizations. We can find today the application of the concept almost everywhere. But to understand what we are going to look at, which is how organizations can overcome crisis, we need to focus on organizational resilience. But I want to focus also in psychological resilience. Because at the end, what is an organization if it is not a group of people working together? And every individual has his own problems, and they are working together in an organization, and they have the organizational problems. So in this case, I want to look at resilience from these two focus, organizational resilience and psychological resilience. Why this decision? And it is easy and clear. We're talking about crisis. Crisis could be from different levels. It could be a local crisis, a new government, a change in the political aspect. It could be an earthquake. It could be a tsunami. It could be an innovation who disrupt the market. Okay, you can study this with organizational resilience maybe, but in this specific case of the COVID-19, we are talking of something which is different. First, it's a global crisis. It's almost every country in the world. Second, it concerns organizations. But third, it concerns also individuals, because the health crisis, it concerns individuals in their intimate, real family life. It could be a sick grandfather or a sick husband or wife or children. So as it is a crisis that concerns all the levels, the individual level, the market or organizational level, the global level, we need to use more theoretical approaches to understand it. And I choose to develop these two approaches and to combine them. Organizational resilience for the decisions that the organization will make, and psychological resilience for the development of resilience in each individual working on the organization. Okay? So let's go to the theoretical part. It says, from the academic literature, how can define or how can we explain organizational resilience? And in that case, we have two different approaches, two different trends, two different ways to understand organizational resilience, which is the resilience of the organization, the capacity of the organization to cope with hazard, to overcome problems, and to continue working. There are two ways to understand it. One is like a process. And in the case of the process, we have an explanation which has a kind of temporality. We are going to explain that as a state before the crisis, another state during the crisis, and then another after the crisis. We can talk that as a stability time or flexibility and then change. Okay, we are looking at a temporality in this approach. There is another approach in literature. We talk about resilience as a stock of capabilities and resources. The organization will accumulate, will acquire, will develop resources and capabilities in order to face adversity when they come. So there is a before, and then this is what we have at that moment. So if I take a look at this, I just took quickly two conceptual models, actuals, about organizational resilience to show you these two approaches. One is do check 2019, and you can see here there is an anticipation in which observation and identification and preparation. This is proactive action before the unexpected event. Then you have the second block, which is this during the unexpected event. What are you are going to do? You are going to copy with the situation. You are going to accept the situation. You are going to develop and implement the solutions. And then once the problem is over, you will have a reactive action after the event just to learn about that. And this will allow you to change. Okay, this is the first approach of temporality dynamic process of resilience. The second approach that I took is Rehab 2020, and you're going to see that there is no temporality and there is a stock of things there. They are three dimensions: risk management, organizational innovation process, which is risk management, innovation, and the third dimension is people, but it is not real people, is what we can do to allow people in the way of from the organization, what we can do. What we can do, we can train people, we can level we can search for a better level of education, we can evaluate people. So this people appears in this for the first time. So as you see, there is a lot of things that we can develop to be able to cope with adversity. And it's a stock of capabilities, it's a stock of resources. Okay. So we have stock of resources, we have a temporal dynamic process, and that's all for the organization. And in the organization, we have people. And in the case of a health crisis, people can suffer, and we need to consider that to understand completely the whole picture. So we're going to talk a little about what is psychological resilience and what is happening in the mind of the people when they face adversity. Psychological resilience, we can define that as a two-step process. You need to understand that when you or me or anyone face a problem, an unexpected, undesirable, something that we didn't expect, we didn't desire, and we didn't like. When we face a problem, in general, the first reaction is an emotional reaction. There is a shock. Why? Why me? I don't understand what is happening. The first behavior is an emotional reaction in face of adversity. So this emotional reaction is natural, but you need to regulate it. Because if you stay at the level of the shock, the affective shock, with negative affect, you are not going to be proactive and to find a way to go out of this problem. So the first part of the psychological resilience is the regulation of the emotion, which is called the emotional resilience. And once this is okay, you can start thinking, because you cannot think properly if you are in a negative emotion. So once your emotion turns to neutral or to positive, better, you can start thinking. And when you start thinking and analyzing, then you can choose the path to go out of this situation. This second part, it is called cognitive resilience. And it's the possibility of have flexibility of thought, to think different paths, different ways out of this. So first step, emotional resilience. If you look at the literature, there is something to say anticipation of recovery as a dimension of this emotional resilience, and then creation of positive emotion. This is Fredrickson, and he has a lot of very interesting papers talking about emotions. So anticipation and recovery. It is difficult to anticipate the COVID-19, but what it is meant to be here is that you and me and everybody as human beings, we need to mentally be able to anticipate that something wrong can happen. Okay, that we cannot control the war all the time, that we can control, decide, free will, do whatever we want to do, but sometimes there is things that happens that are out of our control, and we need to develop this kind of humble look at to see, okay, maybe something will go wrong. Once this is in your mind, it is easy to react when you are facing the problem, because somewhere back in your mind, you knew that you didn't control all the variables. So if you can't work on that, then it is easy to overcome the emotional resilience and to create the positive emotion out of the problem, because all the problems can be seen as an opportunity. This is entrepreneurship, first lesson, okay? You can see a problem or you can see an opportunity. So the idea is that out of the problem, try to figure out the opportunity and create a positive emotion in order to overcome the problem with a good learning. Once we stabilize emotion, once we are no more on the shock, we can go to the second step of psychological resilience, which is the cognitive resilience. And at that time, we start thinking and trying to understand. And to understand, the first thing that we are going to do is to filter important information. It is the process of inhibition. That means that you are going to, in your analysis, you are going to erase, you are going to eliminate all irrelevant information that are not important for you at this moment, and you are going to concentrate on important information, relevant information. Once you are concentrated on the relevant information, you are going to start being creative and just imagine different possibilities, different paths, different combinations. It says it's a process of shifting. That means you are going to switch back and forth between different mental sets, trying to see which will work better. Okay, that I can do that, but I can do maybe that also, and what will be the consequence of when I have learned with this, what that happened. So you're going to start just connecting neurons and imagine different mental sets and deciding the good one. Okay, so we're going to try to understand with these two approaches, organizational resilience and psychological resilience, what happened at the school where I'm working, that's ESSCA School of Management. And you're going to see why I choose ESSCA and not other school. It is not just because I was there and I have access to all the data, but it is also because the complexity of the school. It is not the same when you are just one school with one group of people, but when you are like us, a complex school, you are going to see why this complexity. So first of all, this is a very ancient school. It's old. It was founded in 1909 in France, and then it spread in France and also at the international level. So because now we have a lot of campuses, 6 in France, 1 in Budapest, and 1 in Shanghai. We have 6,000 students, and we have 140 full-time faculty, which is tenure faculty, but the complete faculty is very, very bigger because we have a lot of faculty which are not full-time faculty. And the other thing is that we have a lot of accreditations. We have the 3 more important accreditation, AACSB, AMBA, and EQUIS. That's why we are in the Triple Crown group of schools. But we have also accreditation at the local level, French accreditation. So every accreditation constrains a little the power of decision, the freedom that you have to implement different things, because you have to do the things like you are declaring for the accreditation. So there are constraints. It's very, very good, but it's also a barrier. Another thing that is important for this analysis is to understand the missions at ESSCA And why it is important? Because mission is beautiful words maybe, but in that case, we built this mission all together 1 year ago, and it was presented by our General Director, Jean-Charles Huang. And it is important because the mission was built from the people, just understanding what was really the values that we are sharing, and then we put all the values on the mission. So it was not top-down mission. It is bottom-up mission, or not bottom-up neither. It is a democratic exchange between all the different persons working at the school to develop this mission. And in this mission, we have some values: responsible managers or entrepreneurs, human values, ethical values, multicultural environment, technology, social innovation. They are the key words on the mission of the school. So we wanted to use this also to understand the analysis. Another thing that is characteristic of ESSCA is that in general, all the business schools are very great with their academic propositions. We have a very beautiful academic proposition, like all the other business schools. But we have something that I never saw in other business schools that I work for, which is 2 centers that are very, very active, very present. And this is one center's full dedication to students. This is the Center for Pedagogical Support. And the other center is full dedication for the pedagogy, the professors, and the innovations in the pedagogy, okay? It's the Institute of Advanced Pedagogy. So these 2 centers are active, are represented. For instance, the Center for Pedagogical Support, it is present in all the campuses, and they are in the meetings, and they have their work to say. They are working with the professors and with the students and with the managerial staff. The Center for Pedagogical Support, it develops the human values of the mission because they put the students at the center of the pedagogical project, and it is composed of doctors of psychology, cognitive psychology, which is like the experts on how you must learn, and they are coaching the students with problems, students who are facing failure of some modules or courses. So they are all the time interacting with the students to support them. And the Institute of Advanced Pedagogy, they are all the time innovating in new ways to teach, in new ways to organize classroom, in support young professors, to do exchange between more expert professors and young professors about good practices. There are a lot of activities to improve a pedagogical proposition. Okay. Once I introduce ESSCA with all these aspects, and we are going to look at this from a more theoretical point of view. We have a complex situation, okay? I want to introduce this in this way. We are facing a health crisis, global crisis, unexpected, and we don't know for how many times, it's completely out of our minds, so that we cannot control that. And we have this complexity and resources, okay? The complexity is multi-campuses, multicultural faculty. We have 30 different nationalities in 140 professors. We have multiple accreditation. That means we need to follow up what we say about all the different accreditations. And we are a whole one business school. We are a business school developing the same programs, the same teaching, the same evaluation everywhere in the 8 campuses. In France, for instance, the evaluation is the same in the 6 for the courses in the 6 campuses at the same hour. So we are working as we were just one, but we're 8, completely coordinated. But in the other hand, we have some resources. If we look at from the organizational resilience theory, this is our stock of resources. We have the support centers for the students and for the professors. We have a matricial organization, which is a good resource because we have departments now that are called TRU, teaching and research units, which are transversal. So we group our professors by discipline. For instance, marketing, all the professors on marketing will be on the TRU of marketing, and those professors could be in any of the 8 campuses. But as it is matricial, we have also managerial organization at the level of the campus. So if you are a professor of marketing at the campus in Paris, you will have one superior at the campus in Paris, one contact, and another at the transversal level, okay? The dean of the Paris campus or a representative of the management at the campus, and then the director of the TRU or the department, okay? We have strong values that are shared for all the people because we decide which are those values. And we have a good cohesion. That's the resources that I had before the crisis. Well, when I talk about a good cohesion, is because, you know, there are 8 campuses, but that was not the result of a merger or an acquisition. It was in organic growth. That means that at the beginning, from our first campus in Angers, some people decide to travel, to go abroad, and to open a campus in Lyon, in Paris, in Bordeaux, or in Budapest, or in Shanghai. So it is the same people who were going together, who went out to another location and create a new campus, but with the same culture, organizational culture, with the same values, with the same methods of work, and with the same contact, because we are connected all the time, because we do the same work, simply that distribute geographically. With this situation, at this moment, I developed a theoretical approach on organizational resilience and psychological resilience. I developed the case study of ESSCA School of Management, showing you the problems, the barriers, the complex situation, and the resources that have accumulated. And we are facing a lockdown. That means that from one day to the other, governments say universities has to close. Business school has to close. A student has to go home. Professor has to go home. We have 3 different countries. It was different timing. This was good because we started in China. So it was difficult in China. But when it was in Budapest and then in France, we had a little experience at what happening in China. But we need to coordinate all of these different lockdowns, different ways of doing things in different countries at different moments in time. So, okay, let's go to the question and then the solution. The question, so, okay, now, how to continue working? We cannot develop the activities as we used to do. We were not an online university. No, we are all traditional business school, French business school, teaching as usual with the blackboard and the PowerPoint presentation and the students, and you talk to them and they are in the classroom. So we were not in this kind of, okay, we teach online, so we're going to improve the teaching online. No, we need to transform the reality and transform the professors to be successful and transform the students also to accept and follow that. And the different rules in the different countries, as I already mentioned. So the answer is we need to find solutions, we need to be flexible, we need to learn, so we need to be resilient. So I will use resilience to understand that, because ESSCA successfully overcome the problem within a week. And that is incredible. Just look at that. The lockdown, I put this graphic for France. The lockdown in France was announced on the 14th of March, and it was completely on the 16th of March. And 16th of March, we start using the first software to transform our courses and our meetings in virtual. And look at this, 3 days later, for the 19th of March, we were just doing almost everything on virtual. And then the next weeks, we recover the lack of activity. And then look at the curve, it continues stable. Everything turned to virtual in 3-4 days. Different softwares, training for the people. We are going to see that. If we do a retrospective vision, and I want to analyze that, I need to say that it was a combination of organizational resilience and individual resilience. That's why I put all both concepts together, because in this case, I think the success of this operation was a combination of both. At the level of the organizational resilience, we say that resources. Okay, some resources we already had, the centers to coach students and professors. And the reactivity, these centers were behave very quickly. So as the center of support for the professors, they were working on innovation, they knew about softwares that we don't use at that time, but they knew which software we can use. So they proposed very quickly. So new software systems for meetings, for teaching, other softwares for evaluations, and we had the resources to buy it. So we bought those softwares, and we have the resources to train the people to use them. So this center, that it was our resources, was able to quickly develop the new software and train the people, all the permanent professors, the external professors, the assistants, because everybody has to work like that now. This is one of the things of the organizational resilience, quickly adapt and use the resources we have. The flexibility to change, adapt the propositions, because we start proposing something and 2 days later it was not good enough, so we propose another thing, so we change. So it was a kind of, I would say, we were working in a kind of a mess, changing plans, saying, okay, we're going to do a meeting every week, and then no, we need the meeting every 2 days. No, now we need a meeting every 10 days. And we were changing. And the flexibility to accept that, because you cannot be formal and follow strict rules when you are in the middle of a crisis. In the middle of a crisis, you need to accept that you are going to test and you are going to do things, and maybe it is not the good one, and you have to continue doing and change it. And everybody has to accept, because it is part of the game that you are playing in the middle of the crisis. So just to give you an idea, there were meetings were proposed and then cancelled or changed, and it was in a flexible way while we were looking to find a good practice and to stabilize a little. There were proactivity. This is the same idea, the test and error. allowing the organization to cope with the crisis. They were implementing a lot of different instances of communication. And then something that it is good that every step was followed by an internal satisfaction survey for the student, for the professor, from the staff. So we were checking not only what we discussed during the meetings, a lot of meetings, but also we check with this means of surveys that we can analyze to adapt the proposition. This, what I just say, is what we did at the level of the organization. Use the resources to cope with the crisis. But the organization was full of people, and people were living difficult situations also because we were living in countries affected by the health crisis. So how can you help your people? And this is not by training, it is really to help the people to overcome the crisis at the individual level. And sincerely, it will be easier if you can go inside the head of the people and help them to do that. But it is not possible because it's a personal development. It's a personal thing that you have to do. But you need your people to be resilient in order to help the organization to be resilient also. So we decide two levels of support to help people to develop their psychological resilience. For the students, one-to-one meeting with the CAP, the Center for Pedagogical Support, publication every week, very interesting publication explaining things to the students, explaining about resilience, intelligence, emotional intelligence, about change, about a lot of things that are not academic, that are really psychological things to the students to be followed, informed, coached, and the psychologists working a lot with a group of the students to avoid any problem. At the level of the staff, we develop three levels. The managerial support by the proximity managers in the respect of the individuality. I listened to some of them, some of professors that I listened to one who say, in general, I hate meetings, but in this time, I love when I have a meeting because I was waiting for that. There is other professor who say, this moment is very complex. I need to rest calm. I want to focus on what I have to do, and I don't want to be in all the meetings. So it is individual. Each one will solve his problem in an individual way. But we need to propose alternatives. So we propose the contact through the proximity managers. You can contact the managers in a one-to-one call or by email or by Skype or by Teams or whatever you want to lead this conversation. We also propose a psychological support with a group of psychologists that are not from the school, anonymous. If you have problems that you want to discuss and to have an idea and just to do a little therapy, you have this psychological support. And then we focus on the group cohesion, because we have a strong culture of group work and mutual aid and group cohesion. So we put this more emphasis during this crisis that you can count with your colleagues. You can meet with them, talk with them, exchange with them, and it is open to, the idea is to overcome the emotional resilience, the emotional negative effect that you have after the shock. And to allow the cognitive broadening, which is the second part, we structure information and communication, because it is important to have information to can decide your decision making, decide what you're going to do. Share information is important, it's crucial. So we share information, everybody share information, fluid information, such as, for instance, a weekly CEO allocution with the possibility to chat and ask questions, a weekly department meeting, or a weekly faculty meeting. All of these were moments of exchange in which managers explained what was happening and people just ask questions and propose solutions and discuss and exchange in order to share information. And information is necessary to know what you're going to do after. As a conclusion, we have this unexpected and big problem of the COVID-19 and the consequent lockdown of the economy. We were at ESSCA with a very complex situation. A lot of campuses, professors from a lot of different nationalities, students from different nationalities, accreditations that we have to respect. But on the other hand, we have resources. The Center to support, or the pedagogical support for the students, the Center of Innovation for the professors, this managerial, matricial organization, and the access to technology, the shared values, and the organizational and psychological resilience that we develop, both that allows the continuation of all the activities within a week, because we needed the first week in order to the international students come back home and international professors come back home and prepare themselves to continue by online. So what we have learned, if we want to go to the conclusions of this presentation, what we have learned. In fact, theory is right. There is a resilient dynamic process with a certain temporality, but the problem that I see is that it is not before the crisis and after the crisis. This process of anticipation, coping, and adaptation, it's all the time during the crisis. So it's an iterative process in which today, anticipation, we need to teach. Okay, copy, how we're going to teach. We are teaching by teams. Okay, adaptation. Okay, we learned it, but tomorrow we need to evaluate and we are going to use some of the software. And after tomorrow, we need to have the meeting of the accreditors. So all the time during the crisis, you have this loop of anticipation, coping, and adaptation for every steps of the crisis. You need that for people is resilient if you want that the organization is resilient, because people is the organization. People is going to work and implement the solutions. And if people are in shock, and if people are with complex situations and they don't overcome this complexity and these shocks, they are not going to be able to develop properly the work they have to develop. So there is also an iterative way in which organizations help individuals to stabilize and develop resilience, and resilient people will help the organization to go out of the crisis. So I say that a resilient organization can adapt quickly to change if their people develop resilience and they adopt an iterative model of learning and adjustment, because each step you learn and you adjust. So in order to make it graphic, there is two loops at the same time. One loop between the organization and the learning to improve the process. The other loop with the organization and the individual to help individual to improve their level of resilience. And these two loops intertwined, they are going to allow the organization to succeed in this change. So key success factors for me, in the case of complex crisis, because we are not talking of a market crisis, we're talking of a health crisis, global, the big of the biggest. Okay, in that case, people is the most important. It's at the center of the solution. You need to collaborate and to develop empathy, and you need to put the people in the center. People has to be good, the organization will be good. You need to learn how to work on flexibility, how to work in disorder. You need to accept that you are going to say things and the day after change and propose other things different. And this is good, okay? You need to flat the hierarchical pyramid because you need everybody, the collaboration of everybody. You need the ideas of anyone to find the good things to do. You need to share information. It is not good to say, okay, we have the information, then we decide. No, you share information and the decision is democratic. People collaborate. We are all facing the crisis. You need to develop confidence. Because if you fear failure and you don't allow trial and error, you are not going to learn, you're not going to solve the problem. You need to develop confidence to say, okay, today I'm saying that we're going to do this, but tomorrow maybe it will change and it will be good. And I'm not going to lose my self-confidence because I changed my mind, because not, we are constructing together. And the most important and the last one is humility, because the crises are uncertain, are unpredictable, are uncontrollable. So you cannot master all the factors. You just need to understand it and adapt because you cannot change it, not in the short time. So humility to say, okay, we're facing this. This is difficult. What we need to find a way out, and we're going to find it together. Okay, so I hope it is not too long because I am someone who speaks a lot. I like to talk and I like to explain, and I was shortening because I have a lot of examples that I wanted to share, but I say it will be very, very long. So just to end this presentation, I want to tell you that we were supposed to develop the ICSB Global Conference in Paris next week. So with another business school, which is IPAG, and the OECD, and the ICSB and ESSCA, we were preparing the conference for July 2020. And the conference was ready in March when the lockdown arrived. So we need to put a stop on that also. And to be flexible and to talk with everybody, to change this conference to 2021. So now I'm going to finish this presentation, invited you participate at the ICSB Exposition Universelle of Human Entrepreneurship in Paris in July 2021. And thank you very much for listening to this presentation.
Thank you very much, Ines. This has been an exceptional presentation, very thorough, and it's a really, really well done, trying to combine both theory and practice, and then to connect it all with an example at the end, which is our colleagues and our partners at ESSCA. You all have done a remarkable job in moving fast in times of crisis here. And we have some, what I'd like to do now is open up from some questions. You can write them in the chat section or in the Q&A section here, and we'll try to capture them here. So if you want to have a minute or two to capture your questions here, please write in here. One point that comes from John Mark here, he goes, the two-step of individual resilience, emotion, and next cognition is a convenient concept. But are they really successive and not mixed in people's resiliency experimentation? Your thoughts, Ines?
Yes, I cannot see the question. Can you repeat this because I don't understand very well?
Yes, let me repeat again Jean-Marc's good question here. He goes, the two-step of individual resilience,
Yes.
emotion, and next cognition is a convenient concept, easy concept. But are they really successive and not mixed in people's resiliency experimentation?
Okay, it is very difficult to answer this question because we cannot be inside the mind of the people. Okay, when you conceptualize the concept, they put it as two steps because the idea is that while you are in a shock, in an affective shock, you cannot see clear things because your emotions are over your cognition. So the idea is, we listen. The mind of the people is very complex. So we try to simplify, and researchers conceptualize, trying to simplify and finding explanations. So these two steps is just a simplification, theoretical simplification, to understand that you need to control your emotion in order to allow thinking after, the cognitive aspect. So then at which, if it is more quickly or simultaneous or something like that, it will depend on a lot of factors. I was developing a study about overconfident people. You know, overconfidence was a lot of studied in finance, and I think it is interesting to study this in entrepreneurship also because we have a lot of overconfident people in entrepreneurship. And the fact is that an overconfident person, in general, he makes a denial of the affective emotional part. They overcome the emotional part very quickly because they say, whatever, I didn't want that. So, okay, I thought that it was like that. He should justify this justification, so he overcome the crisis very quickly and he started looking at different choices. And another kind of personality, maybe they need more time to overcome the stabilization, the emotional stabilization. Maybe they need more time and more support to understand that maybe it's not too bad, and then to start looking at their paths, the different ways of solution. It depends on each one. I don't know if it is a good answer for you, but just is what the theory show us a little, and the theory that I choose because I like this part of emotional resilience from Fredrickson, okay?
Yes, thank you. And you mentioned an example of cognitive dissonance where they blame it on other issues here. Another question that comes here is from Paul Nathan. He goes, can you suggest some kinds of metrics to measure organizational or individual resilience in order to improve it continually? So if we're measuring it, as in any metrics, when you measure something, the idea of measuring it is not just to measure it, but to measure it then to build some sort of training or intervention to make it better. What is your response to Mr. Paul Nathan?
Okay, there is some kind of what we say scales to measure. There are scales to measure psychological resilience. From organizational resilience, I really don't know because I was not searching. Maybe there is some scale there also, but as I was not using that. But the idea of measure is important, but at that level, I think for us it's more important to understand how it works before to measure it. So this is an attempt to understand using a broader theoretical framework, not just stay at the classical organizational resilience framework, that incorporating also the psychological and to see both together as intertwined. And then when we understand that, yes, we can use some scales and adapt the scales to measure. It could be a second study that we can do it. Why not?
Very, very good. And is there any other questions or comments here? Maria Fernanda is sending her greetings. She's saying that you guys met in Sweden and in the conference, and you both were working on resilience. So she sends her greetings as well. And also Hartmut from Germany watched your session, but he apologized. He had to go teach class, and I think he's teaching it online. So is there any other? Okay, and then there's a nice comment oh, here comes one. Oh, there's two questions here. One comes from Nasiba. Do you think that in the long run, the trial and error procedures that we have been forced to use will result in major changes in teaching, innovation management, and entrepreneurship?
Again?
So, yes, and so she says, do you think based on the trial and error and procedures, are we going to teach the way we teach our students?
Okay.
That's the question.
The way we teach our students going from presence to online, that is?
Yes.
In fact, what I saw and what I did also, because I was teaching, you understand that on 15th of March, we were in the middle of the second semester, so we were teaching. And it is completely different. I know that the professors that are in the Paris campus also, we need to change completely the courses, the structure of the courses to adapt to this software, who was not the best software for teaching, but it was the only available at that moment. So that implies also a big flexibility, flexibility to say, I have my presentations, but I am an old traditional teacher. So I like a lot to draw on the blackboard. So I use the presentation, but I don't follow them. I give to the students to have a record, but then I just draw on the blackboard and explain and then go and I'm very agile and go and back talking with the students. When you have to change that and be like this, to talk 1 hour in front of a camera like I'm doing now, without writing, without interacting, it is very difficult at the beginning. And I need to prepare more complete PowerPoints in 2 days, because I have my next course 3 days after, and to change everything. So I think there was it's completely different to teach online than to teach in presential, to teach in present. But you need to adapt. You need to do it. It does not mean that you're going to do it forever. It means that you need to finish your work, you need to finish your year, you need to have your students with the contents and the evaluations to finish your academic year, and you are going to finish it with the means that you have at hand. And the means that you have, it was that. So we adapt.
Yeah. So a clarification question here comes from Marina. She says, I am not sure about your team's data report. You mentioned, for example, 4,820 participants, but 6,000 students. Are you saying that almost 1,200 students did not connect during COVID? Is that what you mean?
Not. Is that we have 6,000 students, but in the second semester, there is a lot of students that are on working at the companies, that they are following the courses on the first semester, and the second semester, they are going to the universities in the other countries, in exchange, or stage working on the company for 1 semester during practice. So you, in the second semester, and this was great also for us, you have less students than in the first one.
Okay, great.
We have at ESSCA, we have more students going abroad than coming to France. So we have a lot of students that go abroad in the second semester. And the problem was that in 1 week, we need to ask all of our students to come back to France. And I was talking with partners. It was very funny. because we knew that the lockdown was coming, because we were following the evolution of the pandemic in France. So we say, one day or another, they are going to ask for the phased lockdown. So we were preparing psychological, and I was talking with a colleague from Spain, Valencia, and I told him, we are asking our students to come back to France. And he told me, Ines, next week the local party, they are not going to come back to France. They want to stay here to do the party. And in fact, 3 days later was the lockdown in Spain and in France. So the students, and the same with the UK. I was working with a colleague in the UK. I say, okay, we are very complex now, closing everything and becoming to everything online. And he told me, what here is okay, we continue working. Okay, you know, this is the other factor that we need to understand. We are not alone in this. They are not our solution. We need to cope not just with the crisis, but also with all the colleagues and different universities in different countries, all the students they don't understand that is a really important crisis and want to stay because they want to continue in the other countries. So there's factors of complexity. Okay, that's okay.
Ines, we want to thank you all for your time and effort. This has been an exceptional presentation. I think all the attendees have commented that they really appreciate it. They said also it was a very nice presentation here. So with that, we want to thank you. We want to thank ESSCA School for taking a leadership role in times of crisis, and also your presentation of resiliency is very welcomed at this moment of time as we celebrate Global MSME Day. I want to thank everybody that joined us here, and we send our kind regards. And if you have not registered yet, tomorrow, and if you go to icsb.org, we will be launching our virtual MSME Day conference. So you're all welcome to join. We're going to have excellent presentations. And we look forward to seeing you in Paris in 2021 with our partners ESSCA and EPAC Business School. Thank you very much. All of you stay safe. Thank you, Ines, one more time. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Ayman. Thank you, everybody, to listen to this webinar. And if you have more questions, you can write me to my email. Thank you, Ayman. Thank you, ICSB, and good afternoon to everybody.
Bye-bye.